Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. This is a 25-year look across the spectrum with myself, Kelly Birmingham, and always with my partner in crime, Jen Lucero, mom to Dylan and Ethan. Hey, Jen.
Hey, Kelly.
So, Jen, we are wrapping up what I'm calling season 3 of our podcast because this one was a long season. We've been podcasting since the fall. So this is our last one. We're taking the summer off again. So it's our third season. Woohoo! Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's great.
I know. And we have 9,656 downloads.
Woo.
Almost 10,000. So for our podcast. So that's pretty good for a little small podcast, just you and I shooting the shit.
Yes.
Right?
I love it.
So we have tons of content on our Spotify and Anchor app. If folks want to listen to it, you can also, if you are a BCBA and you need BCBA CEUs, you can also listen to a whole bunch of our podcasts on SitePro's website. And so before we go into the podcast, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, SitePro. Woo! They offer a wide range of engaging and practical continuing education courses developed by BCBAs for BCBAs. And you can visit their website at sitepro.com to see the complete CEU library, including our podcast, all of ours, free, at no cost, on demand. So you can listen while you're driving to us and get free CEUs while you're doing it.
Awesome. Next road trip, we'll do it again.
And I think you and I are going to be putting on a webinar for SitePro in the fall by popular request from people listening to our podcast. I've asked SitePro to maybe have us come on and do a webinar. So that's cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
The thing about our podcast, so listen, I went back and looked our most listened to podcasts. Interesting. The number one was the practice of teaching others with compassion. I thought that was really amazing. That number one that everyone listens to. That seems to be a big thing right now in our field. It's like we need to be kinder, just like in our world, right? Kinder and more compassionate.
Yep, absolutely.
And then number two, which cracks me up, sex ABA. We did a whole month actually on sex.
Yeah.
Talking to different family members. And those are all highly listened to as well. This one was the one where we had Nicholas from Empowered Sexuality talk about how he actually specifically helps folks on the autism spectrum from masturbation techniques to transgender issues. That's his specialty. And so I'll put in the session notes a link to his website because he's one of my favorite guys.
Yeah, he was great.
He was great. And then another top number 3 was transitioning therapists in an ethical way.
Yeah.
That was we were still coming off the Great Depression and just everyone was just quitting their jobs.
Yeah, for sure. I just had another one bite the dust and with no warning. They were there one day. They've been there for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Came for the shift. Acted like nothing was wrong, said, see you tomorrow. And I said, see you tomorrow, because they were scheduled, and got a phone call 10 minutes before they were supposed to get there saying that they quit with no notice and I wasn't going to have services for a month. So that, needless to say, still living the dream. And that went over great with Dylan too.
I was just going to ask, poor Dylan, poor our kids.
Poor guy.
And, I've been on the other end of it where I have been let go. Downsizing was happening. And I've been let go and I had clients that I'd been working with and I couldn't, it happened to so many people in our industry. So many people I know where companies did layoffs or made changes based on financial gains and needs. And then the poor families and kids just were like, one day their people were gone.
Yeah.
Awful.
It's tough, I think, for everybody involved.
Yeah. That pisses me off.
I know.
We
could have many episodes on this.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Anyway, and the top 4, the last number 4 most listened to was the topic, we feel like frauds. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
You and I were both in just shitty.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, everybody was Just feeling it. Everybody got it. Yeah, it's definitely a wild time frame. It was perfect timing to do that, you know.
Yeah, and I'm actually, I know people think I'm crazy. I don't know if it's like menopause or my age. I'm 55, my time in the industry, but I have had like major imposter syndrome fraud experiences for ever since that, like for months, where I'm like, do I know what I'm doing? Like, do
Yeah.
I even know what I'm talking about? And I can't,
Mhm.
I think some of it is I'm freaking tired.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been working in this industry now for 28 years nonstop, right? And then the other one is I've been struggling with technology.
Mm.
I mean, the technology comes up faster. I take
Sure.
the long way to do things, and people are like, oh, there's an app for that, or just click, 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 and they do it so
Mhm.
much faster. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
No, I hear you. Well, and I think too, for me, when I feel most like a fraud, well, besides when, Dylan's tripping, though he's been on a really good streak for a long time now. But I think a lot of people come to me for like advice and like,
Yeah, yeah, they do.
questions, and think I'm an expert. And there's days when, you wake up or you're just like can't sleep, like last night I couldn't sleep, so I just worked. But I feel like, why are you asking me? I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I think we all have moments like that in probably all aspects of our lives, right?
Yep. Agreed. Yeah,
But
I'm working through it a little bit. I think part of it is, so I don't know if I even told you this. My book I got a book in it that's being published.
awesome.
And it is kind of a revamp of my book I wrote 20 years ago, but like with much more updates. It's a
Yeah,
book about
I
having
have your original book.
it's when I look at it,
My mom has it too.
it looks so it looks just so childish, but it was 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
this one is about moving, which I've done topics on this on Site Pros webinars before. But like, like helping that ABA isn't just one-on-one in someone's home, that like there's group models, like Dylan used to come to my clinic, right? And do group activities and
Yeah.
how you do that. And I think some of the imposter syndrome is I'm worried that people read the book and go, that's stupid. You don't know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
But the book is based
You
on
got it. No.
all the years I had my private practice, which I
Yeah, of
in
course.
2004. So like
Yeah.
20 years ago. So I kind of took all that work that I'd written down. I had all these notes and put it together in a book. So I don't know.
I think that's awesome.
Imposter syndrome's real for sure for me.
Yeah.
So I still feel like a fraud, but I'm working on it. All right. So then I just want to sort of wrap up season 3
Mhm.
with a concept. So when you and I spoke at Cal ABA this year, the California ABA conference, and we spoke on caregiver collaboration, and we had two other family parents, Judith Urcity from CASP and Michelle Hyde, who is the public policy board director of Cal ABA. And we talked about, really true caregiver collaboration, what that means. And we had a great audience. We had, that'll probably be our webinar we're doing for Site Pro. And then after that, I sat on another panel about severe behavior.
Mhm.
And I made a comment on that panel that people kind of, when it was over, like flocked to me and asked me for a bunch of follow-ups.
Mhm.
And it was about how to sort through the very complex medical issues that kids and adults on the autism spectrum face, right? And so I'm going to just read something. So as BCBAs, we have a code of ethics that we have to adhere to. And there is a code of ethic that says, it is number 2.12. And it's labeled considering medical needs. And this didn't really used to be in here to this level until this 2022 ethics code. In my opinion, they really spelled it out. Behavior analysts ensure to the best of their ability that medical needs are assessed and addressed if there is any reasonable likelihood that a referred behavior is influenced by medical or biological variables. They document referrals made to a medical professional and follow up with the client after making the referral. That is your freaking life.
Yeah, for sure.
With
For
Dylan,
sure.
right?
No, that's really well written, I think. And honestly, it should be almost number one on any list that I can think of. Like, it should be a priority, bolded, highlighted,
Yeah.
because
And
it really affects so many. Reflecting back too, of both working for myself now, for even just professionally for so long in special needs and with autism, and then personally, but so many kids now, looking back, that I really feel like there's so many medical issues going on that do contribute to their behavior.
so it's so, the thing as as a BCBA and ABA professional is the hard part, and I don't mean to throw medical folks under the bus, but like they don't know either.
Yeah,
Right?
they don't. Well, I don't think it's really their fault though. Because my mom works for Chalk, and still to this day, the doctors that she works with, like they have just like literally within their whole, training, if you think about it,
Mhm.
like their medical training and degrees and everything, they have like 2 sessions, not even a full day,
Mhm.
about autism. And so I think for them, I mean, it's kind of funny because my mom is also a grandma to a
Mhm.
severely impacted individual, but they all call my mom like
Wow.
when an autistic kid comes in
Yep.
to help, you know. Um, and I'm not trying to say like, if you're not getting the information and training, it's again kind of like the behavior stuff. You're probably just going to think a lot of things are behavior based,
Mhm.
you know, or auditory or just sensory, when it could be a real deep down like medical issue that's actually contributing to it. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, don't you think a lot of times we don't understand? So why, even if you have a
Yep.
medical degree, it doesn't mean you're going to understand either, especially if you're, most people have a specialty, like the concentration of like they're looking for one thing. You know what I mean? Like if you go to an ENT, you're looking at
Yeah.
your nose and throat. So there could be a lot of things that are missed. And one thing that I learned too early on with Dylan, with all all the things we tried to figure out, was
Yep.
that they would tell me that there could be something going on, let's say like acid reflux, but it could totally affect like all different
Yep.
things. And when they can't, verbalize, communicate to you what is hurting them, or it could be something else that's actually a different part of their body that you think it is, even though there's an underlying problem, which, as you know, it took us till last year to figure out there's a huge medical problem that we had no idea about.
Yeah. And it took 22 years,
Yeah, 22 years.
right?
And he's been throwing up since he was a baby. So,
Yep. Well, I was looking at all of that. And so you figured out through testing finally that Dylan had Crohn's disease. And
mhm,
oddly enough, I had another family I was working with, and the same similar, this boy wasn't throwing up, but he would eat very rapidly
mhm,
and then throw everything and then scream
mhm.
and sometimes attack his mom and then go lay down in his bed and cry. And I'm like, there's got to be something wrong
Yeah.
with his stomach. Like everyone's like, oh, he's mad at his food. He didn't like the kind of food, and I'm just like, I don't think that's it. So she went and had him tested. And in fact, he was positive for Crohn's disease,
Oh, wow.
right? I
Oh,
couldn't
yep.
believe it. And only
Yeah.
because of you and Dylan,
Mhm.
I told this mom, she pushed and pushed, and that's what happened.
That's wild.
Yep. And so I looked it up, and GI disorder, gastrointestinal disorders, you probably know this, are 8 times more common in children than with autism
For
than other
sure.
children, right?
Yep.
And those include reflux,
Mhm.
right, which you experienced with
Yeah.
Dylan, which actually was not just reflux, it was
Mhm.
ulcers at one point, right? And his
Yeah.
esophagus.
Yeah,
from it.
he's still, yeah, that's why we started all this.
Yep. And I remember I couldn't find a pattern with his aggression.
Mhm.
And we went to Dr. Donnelly and we're like,
Yeah.
Dr. Donnelly, help us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I talked to him the other day. He says hi.
Oh, good. Yeah, he's great.
And abdominal pain, bowel inflammation,
Mhm.
and chronic constipation.
I mean, he has all
All of
that.
them. Yep.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it gets, and then partnered with that, and obviously related are feeding issues. Like Dylan is a good healthy eater now, right? But a lot of kids, so 7 out of 10 children with autism have feeding and eating problems, with their percentage having extremely restricted food habits or chronic overeating.
Well, well, now that he's not throwing up every day, he is getting chunky.
Well, I mean, if people have listened to this podcast, I talk a little bit about my stepdaughter on the spectrum, and she's 33. She's turned 33. Oh my God. And she herself, constant talking, that she'll say, I feel throw uppy. That's all we can get out of her, right? I feel throw uppy. She has lots of diarrhea. And she is a chronic overeater, carb load, tan diet, because she's stuffing. She has reflux.
Yeah.
So like she can kind of tell us all those things, but even the doctor still can't really find anything. We haven't had her tested for Crohn's as I'm thinking about it.
Well, I mean, part of the thing that was so hard is, you know, the testing is so intense and
So
difficult.
intense.
I mean, unfortunately it took for Dylan to, you know, end up very sick and get really skinny and end up in the ER and admitted to the hospital and have every test under the sun. But I mean, we end up having to do a colonoscopy twice and upper GI scope, and you know, that's always fun. You know, but for anybody, much less if, you know, you have some issues. But I'm glad we did it because we found that and a bunch of ulcers. I mean, he had just like everything going on, like inflamed intestines. There was a random bubble in his gallbladder, like you name it.
Wow.
You know, but he's doing so much better. I mean, I was thinking about it, and a year ago is when he was doing all the testing and everything, and we did all the major tests. I remember because it was right after 4th of July, and then he started treatment. So it's been almost a year, and he is like so much better and so much happier. And I mean, his behavior is like night and day. So
and that's the thing, right? Like this behavior, his, you know, pretty significant aggressive behaviors at times is reduced and not happening because he feels better. And so as behavior analysts, you know, what we do is we, you know, are assessing the function of behavior, right? Is he doing it to escape, get out of something? Is he trying to gain access to something? Is he trying to get your attention? And then the fourth one is like automatically maintained, meaning there's an internal motivation that's, you know, create an internal motivation to act out. And for you and I have talked about this time and time again, these kids, all kids, frankly, but kids on the spectrum are more likely to go after the person they love and trust the most, right? Yeah. Mom.
Yeah.
And same with like Melanie, my stepdaughter, like if she's going to get mad at anyone, it's going to be me and her dad. And we're the ones who do the most for her, right?
I don't know though, because Ethan takes stuff out on me too. I think that's just a kid thing.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking about like, okay, so a lot of these kids, and the more impacted with autism you are, the more likely you're having comorbid medical conditions, right? Yeah. And so now we've got kids that are acting out on their caregivers who love them the most and want to help them the most. And it's a vicious cycle, right? Because you're like, you want to help them, you're trying to go to the doctor to get help, you can't help them, you feel like a failure as a mom, but the medical community is failing you, and then your son's going after you. So, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's totally like a vicious circle, you know?
So it did get me thinking, and I don't know what to do about it, except that I think that somehow as community, families and ABA providers, we've got to partner with medical doctors better.
Mhm.
I mean, I was lucky, you were lucky, frankly. We got to have at the time when it was really a great place to go to, not longer there anymore, the Center for Autism, or, you know, we had Dr. Donnelly.
That is amazing.
You had Dr. Mike, right?
Yep.
His pediatrician who like would see him at any time and
Yeah, when he wasn't even open.
yeah,
He was like, come over.
yeah.
Come over during when I'm not even open. I mean, just to make it easier for Dylan. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a friend
Mhm.
who is trying to I'm gonna name her Brianna Hartley. If anyone listening knows Brianna, I'm trying to meet with her. And she is actually trying to do more work training medical providers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I want to try to tap into her, because even at like local levels, I feel like, you know, ABA companies should be partnering with medical doctors.
No, I agree. And I know you did stuff with I've been really lucky. I mean, but I know you did some training with you know, dentists and hygienists and
I trained Chalk's emergency
yeah.
department at one
Oh,
point
that's
too.
cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for example, I had and he's actually related to Dr. Mike, but Dylan's dentist, and he's not a special needs dentist. He's just had it in him, you know, great guy, but he partnered with a special needs anesthesiologist. And I mean, just they were so on top of it, and it just makes the whole experience so much easier, you know.
Yeah.
But you do have to advocate too. And now I got it down, but like for the last year, because so Dylan, and he had to go much sooner in between, but now it's every 8 weeks for these IV infusions that are like 4 hours long at the hospital. And you know, there's still rules and all stuff, but it's funny because at first they were like, oh, you can only bring one person in and all that. And no. And that's I always bring an ABA person with me. And you know, we bring out all the stops and stuff. But now it's like they're so great to us. They have almost like a penthouse suite for now. And then they totally get it and are nice, and they ask questions and to us, and they've just made it so easy. But yeah, I think the more training that they can get, and I think they appreciate it too. And another one that I do on the sidelines is, you know, training for law enforcement.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and I know that you know, they're always wanting to learn more. And you know, I just did a torch run yesterday with law enforcement, and so I just think it's really important. You're right on the mark with that.
I think I think particularly some of the larger ABA companies training medical doctors. I've worked for places that had medical doctors, but they were neurologists. And I think and you need a neurologist, but I do think that where we're missing out is on the gastrointestinal folks. And so I do think there's sort of like a call to action for folks, even if it means families just bring their ABA provider in, but like getting gastrointestinal care.
Yeah, for sure.
Is huge.
And there's not a lot, I mean, even locally, there's not a lot of specialists that, you know, actually that are available that are the special needs, you know, gastro, you know. I mean, again, we've had some good experiences, but again, part of the problem too is like you shouldn't have to just go to like someone that is known for special needs, like, you know, and everybody needs to get trained, because part of the problem, which still exists, as you know, is the wait time to even still get even assessed and diagnosed, and then starting treatment for services, whether medical or, you know, just, you know, ABA, OT, speech, whatever it is. It's still astounding to me at this point that, people, the wait lists are like 9 months to a year and a half. I mean,
Yeah.
you're on a pretty, especially now knowing that there's a lot of medical issues tied into this. Like the sooner that you get this diagnosis and call to action, like the better off obviously the individual is, but everybody's going to be.
I agree. So I'm going to percolate on this. I'm going to reach out to Brianna and see what she's doing. And I guess maybe if anyone's listening to this podcast, message us. You can find me anywhere. You can find me on LinkedIn, Kelly Birmingham. And if you're doing something in this area, let us know. Because one thing that I'm doing as a project right now, I don't know if I told you this, Jen, with 2 other BCBAs, is we created a QR code that goes to a Google Drive, and we're putting all kinds of safety references. There's
Awesome.
wandering and elopement prevention, fire safety, natural disaster, and one of my colleagues, Maria, created a medical cheat sheet for families to take with them to medical appointments. So we're presenting it in Nashville at the Women in Behavior Analysis Conference, and we're going to launch it in July and let people know. And so I think I'll add in a medical gastrointestinal folder in there and maybe get some resources from you that you know of.
Yeah.
Other folks listening to this podcast, if you have resources or things you've done, share it with me. And I'll drop it into this Google Drive that we're trying to do this like call to action to everyone on safety and medical needs supporting children on the spectrum.
Awesome. I love that.
Well, Jen, I know I'll see you next Saturday at the Special Olympics event, but this is our last podcast for the summer. We'll be back in September. So thank you to our audience for listening. You can check us out on SitePro and get free CEUs.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great summer. Bye.